Hey, this is Summer with Summerly Design Co. and today I'm going to show you how I Kitchener stitch the toes of my socks closed. I do it a little bit different so that I end up with more of a rounded toe. When you do Kitchener stitch the standard way, it can leave pointy ends on the ends of your toes on either side. And so to avoid doing that and to kind of soften that edge so it's a little more of a slope on either side and more rounded, I do a couple of tricks. So the first thing I do is when I finish the very last decrease row, that's when I start Kitchener stitching. I do not then do a knit row and then Kitchener stitch. I start Kitchenering right after I finish my last decrease row, and that helps to give you more of a rounded edge. The second thing that I do is I skip the setup rows in Kitchener stitch and I go right into Kitchenering. I have a blog post where I'm going to write all of these steps out in case you want to read it in addition to seeing me doing it, but it'll explain it in detail in the blog post, basically that I'm skipping those setup rows and I'm going right into Kitchener stitch. So I'm just gonna get this set up. All right, so the very first thing I do is I insert my needle knitwise and then I slide it off and I pull the yarn through. And of course I've already cut my yarn and left a long tail and threaded it on the needle. So I've inserted it in the first stitch on the front needle knitwise and I've pulled that stitch off. Now I'm going to insert my needle purlwise in the second stitch on the front needle and I'm going to leave that on. Then I'm going to insert my needle purlwise into the first stitch on the back needle and take that stitch off, and we're just going to pull the yarn through. If you can hear a dog barking outside, it's mine. Then I'm going to insert my needle knitwise into the second stitch on the back needle, and I'm going to leave it on and pull the yarn through. And then I'm just going to keep doing that. Insert my needle knitwise into the first stitch on the front needle, pull it off. Insert my needle purlwise into the next stitch on the front needle, leave it on. Insert my needle purlwise into the first stitch on the back needle, take it off, pull the yarn through. And then insert my needle knitwise into the next stitch on the back needle, pull the yarn through, leave the stitch on. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get to the very end, to the last two stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and work until I get to the last two stitches, and then I'll be back to show you what I do at the end. All right, I have now reached the end of the Kitchener stitch. I've got two stitches left on both the front and the back needles. So I'm going to show you what I do at the end to again help achieve a more sloped edge to my toe so it's not pointy like little rabbit ears. So I'm going to do like I've been doing. I'm going to take my needle knitwise into the first stitch on the front needle and slide it off, pull the yarn through. And then I'm going to take my needle purlwise into the second stitch, and instead of leaving it on, I'm going to go ahead and pull that off too. And we're going to do the same thing with the back. I'm going to insert my needle purlwise into the first stitch on the back needle, pull the yarn through, and then insert my needle knitwise into that last stitch, take it off the needle, pull the yarn through. And then I'm simply going to stick my needle into a stitch below inside the sock, and then reach my hand. I know you can't see the tip. I'll pull it down. Reach my hand inside and pull out all of that excess yarn and down. And that's it. And I know it still looks a little pointy because I haven't blocked yet. Once you block it on your sock blocker, it definitely rounds out even more. But I found that doing those three tricks, going ahead and starting your Kitchener directly after you've done your last decrease row, do not do your Kitchener after you've done a knit row. It definitely gives you more of a slope if you do it directly after a decrease row. So that's trick number 1. Trick number 2 is skipping the setup rows for Kitchener stitch and just getting right into the Kitchener. And then trick number 3 is what I just showed you at the end with those last 2 stitches on each needle. And I found that doing those 3 things really helps give me more of a rounded toe, especially when it's blocked. It looks really nice and a lot rounder, and you don't have those really prominent pointy ends on either side. So I hope this video was helpful. If you want to see more tutorial videos, the occasional podcast whenever I do them, which is not often, but sometimes I do podcast, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if you found this video helpful, it always helps me out if you give it a thumbs up. Sometimes people give me thumbs down, and that's okay too if you really feel that strongly about it. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I'll put links to my Instagrams, my Ravelry pattern store, my Etsy store if you want to check out some of my sock patterns. This is just a basic sock. I've got that for free. It's on my blog, and I'll post a link to that as well if you want to check out my free basic sock pattern. I'll put all of that at the end of this video and in the description to this video. That's where you can find the links to the blog post where I talk about all these tricks if you want to read the steps instead of just watching it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.